Week of the Litigation Support Trial Technology Podcast. Once again, my name is Rob Help. That hasn't changed in a few years, so I think my name is still the same. Last week's show, as you know, or I hope you listened to, we talked to Sean Kennedy from eDepose, and that was a very interesting show. I want to say I listened back to it, and I felt like I was being a little bit critical. And I wasn't trying to be, but I think that software may be a little bit ahead of its time. And so I think they're doing great things over there. I think they're trying a lot of good things. But when it comes to document management and it comes to exhibit management, and when I say exhibit, I mean anything that has a sticker, anything that you can use to introduce in court. And today we're going to be talking with Tammy Doss from iPro. As you know, a few shows ago we talked with Kim Taylor, and I've known Kim a long time, and somebody had sent me an email, said we sounded like a couple of old dogs sitting on the porch and just talking, and that's what we did. And today I really want to break down some of iPro's suite of software that has come out, because all of us in this industry have used iPro at one time or another. I mean, you've had to have if you've been in this industry for any length of time. And so I really kind of want to break that down when it comes to document management. And so the one area that iPro has not gotten into is the trial presentation side. And after talking with Kim a little more, I discovered that, Kim told me flat out that was not an arena that they looked at playing in. And it seems to me that right now a lot of people are trying to get into that trial technology space. And my guest today has a lot of experience over in that area because Tammy, I remember when she was with Data. So she's been around this game a long time, and she understands the different moving parts and components that go into this business and how they work together. But I really want to get on this document management thing and the different softwares and the different tools, because there are many things that iPro offers that I just want to talk about. Frankly, I think my listeners want to hear. And I want to thank the listeners. I try to do that every show. Thank you for hitting the download button. You make a conscious choice to listen to this and listen to my babbling on as I, the interviewer, try to ask questions that I want to know, and I would hope that they're questions that you want to know. Before I get going and bring our guest on, though, I want to mention one more thing, and that is everybody knows Ted Brooks, my good friend in California. Ted and I have, I told you there was an announcement coming, some things we wanted to do. Not ready to completely release it yet, but everybody needs to mark their calendars for February 18th and 19th in Dallas, Texas. We're going to be doing something on a Thursday, Friday that I do not think has been done in this industry yet. We're going to do it. We're going to do it the right way. We're working out all of the details right now. And we're going to have a limited number of people that are going to come to this thing. And we're going to kind of do a from file to trial type of seminar, so to speak. And so when we get all the details on paper and get everything ready to release, we're certainly going to do a show on it and talk about it, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. But without any further ado, I don't want to take up too much time because I want time for Tammy to come on. I want to introduce somebody who I've known in the industry for a long time. She's been around, knows everybody, and at least everybody knows her. Coming in from sunny Phoenix area of Arizona, from
Yeah.
iPro, Tammy Doss. Tammy, how are you today?
Hey, Rob. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are the new offices that are supposedly very Google-esque?
The offices are great. And would you believe that today it is raining and 65 degrees?
I am stunned. I am shocked. I have never known Phoenix to have rain. The funniest thing on Kim's podcast was when I said, it's 120 degrees out there, but it's a dry heat, and Kim said, yeah, so is my oven, but I don't hang out in there.
Well, it is raining today, and of course, we love it. We
Well,
love it.
tell me about the new offices. What's going on there? What did you guys do? What'd you put in? And my understanding is there's a beer keg somewhere.
That's the rumor. So we moved about the last around the last week of August into our new facility here in Tempe. We're just a couple miles from the ASU campus, which is really great for us. We're in a very large space. It's super modern, very high tech. No right angles in this building. Every last detail that Kim had in mind is here. We do have a bar area that does have a pool table and foosball and games and a bar. It's great. We have a ton of conference rooms and really cool development scrum rooms and just different little nooks and crannies around here for creative thinking and collaborative work. It's
What
great.
do you, Tammy? Do you think that the location was strategic in the fact that you could be able to recruit talent?
Absolutely. Oh, that I would say that one of the primary factors for this chosen location. Previously, iPro was up in North Scottsdale in a really nice building, and in the Scottsdale area, it's obviously very nice, but it was quite a commute for a lot of folks, depending on where they live in the valley. You're familiar with this area. There are a lot of suburbs and a lot of people in the East Valley. And there are a lot of tech companies in that area, and then the close proximity to ASU is definitely a major part of it because we do have a couple of interns. We are looking at some of the talent that's coming right out, new graduates and people who are excited to work for tech companies.
So, do you feel like the new space with the not having right angles and having a pool table and a foosball table and collaborative spaces, do you feel like that increases productivity?
We do. I mean, everyone here, first and foremost, we have a very special team dynamic here. So we operate very much as a family. And in our team dynamic, you know, we like to get together and talk and bounce ideas, and this building very much lends itself to that type of interaction. And but we are also very focused on the overall achieving the overall vision and focusing the company's goals. So we there are people who have said, oh gosh, if I worked there, I would probably be upstairs in the bar playing pool all day. No, no, you wouldn't. I mean, that's just not the type of environment we're in. We're here to think and do and work together, and so it's really great. I think that it's increased productivity, and I think it also has just made people excited to be here every day.
Well, and we're going to get into some of that thinking and that creativity when we jump into the different software packages that make up iPro as a whole. But I want to ask you a question because you've been in this industry for a long time. As a matter of fact, let's get into that. Tammy, how did you get your start and where have you been to get to where you are right now?
Okay, so my introduction into this industry is an interesting one, and this story has been told a number of times, both by myself. But I've told this story. Kim Taylor has told this story. Uh, I don't know how close we are at this point of being in line with the real version of the events that took place. But well, I am from Central Illinois, and when I was in college. And I was very close to graduating. So I was about 3 months from graduating. I came to Phoenix for a visit, and I was considering moving to Phoenix. And there were a whole series of events that took place, but ultimately I ended up having been bounced from a couple of different flights, and I ended up on a flight to Chicago, or I mean, from Chicago to Phoenix. And I happened to be sitting next to this guy that was talking with me about litigation technology. And of course, I was a Midwestern college student. I couldn't spell litigation technology. I didn't know what it was. And so he talked to me about it the whole way, and we had a very quick and fast connection. And for 3.5, 4 hours of that flight, we sat and chatted. And as I deplaned, he turned to me and said, "My name is Kim Taylor. And the story I just told you, and the business that I was talking with you about, that's my company. I own that company. And if you are interested in interviewing with us, I may have a spot for you. And so I interviewed shortly thereafter. And 2 weeks after I graduated from Illinois State, I moved to Phoenix. And this is now my third company with Kim. And it's been 14 years.
Now that was Lex Saludio, correct?
That's correct. Yes. I went to
And
work for Lex Ludia.
and so you guys that and it seems like a lot of people Kim has a posse, so to speak, that that follows him around. What does that say about Timothy Taylor?
Well, more importantly, what does it say about the people who followed him around?
Well,
Really?
we could call this a David Koresh thing if we want to, but I don't think there's a Branch Davidian bone in his body.
Well, Lex Saludio was a very special place for me. So when I started there, I was hired by Kim in 2001. I actually started in January of 2002, and Lex Saludio was growing at the time. I mean, we had a Phoenix office, Chicago office, and in the process of securing a DC office. And it was a pivotal time. And I was very lucky to get to be on that flight. And I was very lucky to have had the opportunity to join at that time. So this is still, very paper based time. I mean, Lex Ludio was a digital company and very into technology, but this is, really before all the data processing. It was more, scanning documents, creating bibliographic databases, OCR, transcript synchronization, all that stuff. And it was just a really interesting time. And so I was very fortunate to learn a lot about the business from Kim and from Steve Moore, which was his partner at Lex Saludio, and Chris Taylor, Kim's brother, taught me the ropes of what it was to take care of a customer in our business. And shortly thereafter, Lex Saludio had been awarded responsibility for both document depository and repository for the Enron litigation. And from there, it just exploded.
Did you have a chance to go to Houston to the blacked out window place that was on the second floor of that building?
Yeah, so that we opened that Houston office there, and on Allen Parkway, we had a full-on production facility there, but we also had the document depository as well. And so, yes, I did visit that office a couple of times, and then not too long after that, in late '03, Kim and Steve had um, sold the company to Encore, what became Encore, and I stayed on with Encore.
And then you ended up at InData. And
I
most people use InData, they use Trial Director or whatever. What was your role at InData? Because I remember when you came on, I think you had come on as like a national sales executive, correct?
Well, I sort of came on in a different role. They were, they had some new technology that they were looking at and putting out there. They're still working on it. They so I left Encore about a year. Well, it was Epic. About a year after the Epic sale in 2012, and then I started working on the software side. So I worked for a small startup company using Syngent software, and then I went on to Indata. And of course, I'd worked with Indata on and off throughout the years because Lex Saludio had a trial consulting division, and we very much used Trial Director as one of our tools, and we sold it as well. And so during that time, um, I had gotten to know several of the folks within Indata, and it was just kind of a natural progression. So one of the things about going over to Indata that I enjoyed the most was, of course, they were on the trial side, which was something I had been exposed to, but I didn't have a lot of expertise in that area. But more importantly, I was exposed to software development and really what goes into building these tools for customers. And as you know, I mean, Derek Miller,
Sure.
and I had lunch with him a few months back, and he's doing well, and they're still very much working on getting technology to market that makes sense and helps their customer base. But he's super passionate, and I really enjoy being part of helping build another technology and kind of provide insight into what the customers want.
I was very fortunate in the fact that while you the software that you speak of was TD Notebook, and I had the opportunity to sit with Derek as he was mind mapping a lot of the development of TD Notebook and what it was going to do. And of course, the idea and the vision that Derek has there is wonderful. I think that Derek and Jordan and Scott are a very good team in their roles, and I think that they are certainly pioneers and visionaries and leaders in this industry. Now, at the time you were there, I'm guessing that Chaz was still one of the programmers, correct? He was the guy. He was the
Chaz.
guy that
I'm not sure.
he wore the little shorty ties. Uh,
Oh yes, Chaz. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
and he did a great job in development, and those guys over there did a really good job. I mean, I remember back in 2001 and two, really having a lot of conversations with George Bellica and Brent Sandstrom, and those guys were doing a great job. But be
Yeah.
that as it may, now you're at iPro.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the solutions that iPro has, and I want to take them one at a time, and I want you to talk about what they do and what you see as their purpose and where they fit in large or small scale litigation. And I want to start with Allegro. Talk a
Okay.
little bit about Allegro.
Well, Allegro is the high-speed ingestion tool, the early case assessment tool that's on the front end. So it can be used a couple of different ways. The customers can use Allegro to get an early and quick look at what data they have and what they've just received, and interact with it a bit. Try look at search terms and how the data reacts to these searches that they run, and they can really zero in on timelines and really kind of analyze the data on the front end. But it also can be used as a high speed ingestion tool to quickly extract and push data along to the review process. But now, as you know, we have released, we are in the process of releasing AD, which is our automated digital discovery platform. And there are pieces and parts of Allegro that have been built into that piece, because we really have tried to, although we do have the separate products, we're really working on the streaming workflow. And we've recently introduced our streaming workers.
Let's talk a little bit about the second tool that I find interesting as hell, and that is Eclipse. Talk about Eclipse.
So Eclipse is obviously, it is a review platform. It is a full scale review application. It has all the features you would expect, and it has analytics built in, email threading, your duplicate detection, and technology assisted review. And so using content analysts, it's a very robust web based review tool, and it too has a major play inside our new ad platform, where we are actually pushing documents into the review piece within minutes, as opposed to having to wait, in some instances, days to get a look at data. And so really our Eclipse tool is going to become one of the primary places our customers spend their time.
eCapture.
So eCapture, heavy lifting, production grade processing tool. It's been on the market for quite a while. I would say that the majority of the service providers um, nationally are using eCapture. It's been around a long time. It's sort of a tried and true technology, and that's really what's kind of the backbone of what we've built within our ad platform, is this very robust tool that is you know extracting data at a very very rapid rate, and with all the functionality and features and flexibility that people have come to love about eCapture.
Do you think that e-discovery? Well, let me ask you this, and this is your opinion, and I want you to, I always say on this show that my opinion, the opinions I express on this show are not necessarily those of the company that I'm with, Sue Ann Engel Associates. They're not the opinions of any of my guests that have been on the show. They're mine, and so I want to ask you a question that you may want to couch in terms of they're your opinions, and you're not speaking for iPro, but
Hmm.
why do you think? Well, this is a yes or no, and then I'll follow up. Do you feel like the industry has shifted more toward e-discovery as the prep tool versus trial technology and things like that. What I mean is, when you go to Legal Tech New York, it's all e-discovery vendors now. Trial presentation and those things are by the wayside. Is e-discovery the new trial presentation, so to speak? It's the new kid on the block and the big thing right now. Do you agree with that? Yes or no?
Well, I think that I mean I wouldn't call it the new kid on the block, but what I would say
It's the big kid on the block.
it's definitely the big kid, and actually in e-discovery, the there are preparations that are happening prior to the traditional e-discovery piece, including from the information governance side, on the side of the corporation, and just preparedness for litigation risk, risk mitigation, legal holds, things of that nature that are happening early on. In comparison to trial, I think that what you're seeing there is that fewer cases make it to trial, and the idea is to avoid it. In a lot of cases, in a lot of instances, that the costs of going all the way have increased because data sizes have increased so much. And it's just a situation now where exponentially data has grown. And the idea comes down to, in the huge litigation process, I mean, you can break it down into a sort of simple terms, which is basically, what do we have, and what do we need? How do we get it? Now that we have it, how do we reduce it and make it smaller? um, and then how do I zero in on what I actually need, and kind of moving through that, all those stages in that process of, from the time that data is collected all the way through to the time that it's reviewed and ultimately produced. That the idea is to reduce costs along the way. And a lot of instances, based on whatever the factors are in the case, I think a lot of companies reach settlement at some point in that process, in order to avoid trial.
So, what would you consider iPro as? Are you an e-discovery leader, or are you a big data leader, or is there a difference in the two?
Well, these days, I'm not sure that there's a difference between the two. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, I think that's a matter of opinion. I mean, we pretty much say that, we are a service company that happens to build software, and the idea behind our vision is really not about traditional e-discovery, but rather leveraging our experience from from all of our people, which a lot of us are from service providers, but there are a lot of folks here that are from the law firm side and some from the corporate side, and looking at litigation practice in general, and the whole process of discovery, and figuring out, what can we do to make it easier? What can we do to reduce cost, to increase the time, to reduce errors? There are so many inefficiencies built into this process. So rather than perpetuate sort of a broken model that has been riddled with inefficiencies and some very poor practices, what iPro is now doing is saying, how do we change the paradigm of, how do we reprogram the market to understand that it doesn't have to be this hard?
E-discovery is hard.
E-discovery is hard.
And so I said one time, look, e-discovery is not for the faint of heart. As I've said in the past, e-discovery is not a market or platform that I play in. So I am ignorant to that platform. Do I understand it? Absolutely. Do I understand metadata? Absolutely. Do I understand data sets? Absolutely. I know enough to be dangerous, and I stay out of that area. Do you find, Tammy, that big data and e-discovery, not being for the faint of heart, are actually made easier and more manageable using iPro's set of tools?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. You know, there are a couple, I mean, and you had Kim on a few months back, and people have listened to Mike Schubert, talk through some of the major challenges that face people in the e-discovery world. And and my take on it is slightly different. I mean, Kim obviously has the is looks at the very big picture and the overall problems, and Mike is very much involved on the workflow, the automation, making the products uh, do what they need to do, and help reduce inefficiencies in that entire workflow. And one of the things I look at when I leverage my own experience is the client facing aspect of, you know, as a service provider, it was very tough. When I was, and in the last 4 years that I was at Epic or Encore, I was managing the project management team, and so we had 30 some project managers, and we were managing hundreds of cases at any given time that were active, and we had a few thousand cases that were in process somewhere, but we had hundreds of active cases. And really, there were so many starts and stops in the process from the time that we received data from customers, and identified which custodians we were going to process, and identified search terms and the processing specifications and filtering specifications. There were all of these pieces and parts that we had to put together and then manage it throughout the process. There were numerous times where we didn't sleep, and that's not a joke or an exaggeration, for days. And on the client facing part, our clients didn't sleep either. It was not our, it wasn't a factor of our customers trying to make it hard on us, but rather the pressure they were under to get data out the door, and to find out what they had, and to figure out what their risk was, and to get through the review and get the production out. And too many times, our folks on the front lines there with the customers had to deliver some very bad news based on things that would happen just as a result of technology failures, where things were stalled and there were stops, or maybe there were errors found. And at Encore, we had a lot of great practices in place, and QC measures, and little automation pieces that we had built in, but it wasn't universal from start to finish. And I have to tell you that that was one of the, I think it's probably the hardest job in the industry, is managing complex litigation and delivering, trying to manage all the different deadlines for numerous cases, and make sure that we are meeting the customer client objectives and their needs. Very difficult. And now, so we sit in meetings now here at iPro, talking through all the great tools that we have in place, and some of the automation that has been put in place, the new efficiencies, the increased capacity, workflow, all these things. And we say, gosh, our lives would have been so different in 2010 if we'd had this.
Oh, hello.
Just as a provider, I think that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
And and that's one of the major, I think, challenges that faces the e-discovery industry, is the people aspect, in terms of the e-discovery industry can very much burn people out, and very quickly. And the ones that stand the test of time, I mean, those people are just made of true grit. That's all you can say about it. And I mean, it was very hard to keep people in a good, balanced space, just because the nature of the business said there is no balance here. this is this is crazy, and you either are on the bus with us going 1,000 miles an hour or not.
right, right. Let me take you to task a minute on something that you said. I said the question I asked was if the suite of tools from iPro made the e-discovery process easier, and your answer to that was yes, absolutely. Let me take you to task a minute. What if somebody's listening to this show and they invest in buying the suite of tools and they sit back and they learn it? Don't don't you feel that there's a lot of experience that needs to go behind these tools? It's not just an off the shelf, it's automatically going to work, and you're going to be able to put this in the hands of clients, and you're going to be able to resell, and you're going to be able to support. It's not that easy, is it?
Well, I would say that we're very much working toward that, and that's the goal.
Sure, sure.
That's the goal. I mean, very, there are pieces of technology out there, and that anyone can buy. and operate. iPads, Droid devices. There are websites that people can use, Amazon, Netflix, and it's easy. And they can do it. They don't need training. They can do it. And so I would say that what we're building and what we have built is easier than ever before. And actually, I would push back in saying that yes, I think that these tools will be more accessible than a lot of other tools out there, and even our tools in the past. This would be more accessible to people, and you don't need as many hands touching them. And so, does that mean that those folks, okay, so now that we're automating it, do they not have a place anymore? Absolutely. But there are a lot of folks out there in our industry, and you see it all the time in service providers, but within law firms as well, that their skill set is much broader, deeper, and richer than the job that they might be doing because they're having to do a lot of manual stuff to get data from one point to the next when they really could be helping the companies they work for build best practices and fill in gaps and provide better consulting and all of that. So to answer your original question of is it that easy that people just buy it off the shelf? I mean, probably if my neighbor bought it, they probably wouldn't have a clue. So I mean, of course, they need to have some industry knowledge, but I would say that it's getting easier than ever before, and the goal is to make it just as easy as we can.
Well, the reason I ask, one of the things that scares me is that, and I'm going to speak from the trial technology side, and this is going to be a pretty good segue because I want to lead into integration in just a moment. But the one thing that scares me more than anything is when someone buys a copy of trial director, buys a copy of sanction, buys a copy of exhibit view, buys a copy of on cue, buys a copy of visionary, whatever, and they sit down and they learn the least common denominator of everything, and then they fancy themselves a trial technology consultant, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Correct.
Um, that is, I think, what scares me more than anything. E-discovery has always scared me. Big data has always been something that I just felt like, I'm going to be an expert in my field and I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to let the experts do what they do. You have forgotten more about e-discovery than I'll ever know, Tammy. And you're certified in a lot of areas and you've taken a lot of continuing education, and you have, as I said to a colleague of mine this morning, you are drinking deep from that cup of knowledge. And so I just wonder how many people are going to buy the suite and fancy themselves an e-discovery expert. Do you understand my concern?
Sure, but I think there are mechanisms in place. I mean, first and foremost, I mean it's the software, is not being sold on the open market to just anybody.
Right.
I mean, these are companies that obviously are coming to us in this space. I think we do a very good job of consulting with the end users, and we don't just sell it to. I mean, in terms of if someone came to us and we really thought, that they needed to walk before they run, we're going to tell them that, and we're going to talk through it. We're not just about, hey, let's just make this sale, and who cares if they know
Well,
what they're doing.
I want to speak to that a minute because,
Hmm.
and I'm going to go on record as saying this. This is memorialized for everybody to hear. The fact of what you just said, that you're not just going to sell to everybody, and you're not taking the attitude of take the job and then worry about it later. Because I'll tell you now, you're going to remember this. I was working on a case in New York in which I called you and I said, Tammy, we've got a special set of circumstances here with a bunch of documents. Here's what they're wanting to do. And I looped you in with the paralegal to see exactly what it was they were wanting. And they actually went with a different product. And you were fine with that because you didn't feel like iPro, the suite of tools, was really designed or could do exactly what they were wanting. So rather than just making a sale and getting your money, you said, you know what? If you go that direction, you're going to be fine, but always keep us in mind for your next project.
Right. Well, I think that's very important. I mean, if you want to be a true partner with companies, It cannot be about the sale in the moment and walk away. We have a lot of different mechanisms in place to onboard our customers so that they are set up for success. iPro will not be successful if we have people out there that are struggling and don't have help. We have sent our consultants on site inside law firms and service bureaus and corporations and had them work side by side with those people to help them understand what they're doing and why in our tools.
Which is
And
exactly what I want to be able to do over on our side with trial technology. I can't, I had a horror story. I had something horrible happen to me about a month and a half ago where I and I violated my own rule, Tammy. I put a warm body in a seat,
mhm,
and it turned out bad for me. Turned out real
it,
bad for me, where I had to come with hat in hand while eating crow, and I was embarrassed. It made me look bad. It made my company look bad because the vetting process wasn't good. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Ultimately, the buck stops with me, and so I want to get to that point where, because right now in our industry, how many you've seen trial technology consultants, Tammy, yourself, that it's not that the software is bad, it's that the tech doesn't know what they're doing, but so it
sure,
makes the software look bad.
right.
And that's what you
Yes,
guys don't want to end up having happen. Is you don't want somebody to use Eclipse, you don't want somebody to use Allegro, you don't want somebody to use eCapture or Add or any of those, and not understand it, not be good at it, because then somebody else from the outside looks at it and says, "Oh, that software's crap,"
right.
when it had nothing to do with your software.
That's correct. And so that's very much why we have the process that we have. We have evaluations. We assign solutions consultants to those evaluations to really to literally hold their hand and walk them through it. And it during the eval process, it becomes very apparent, where people need help and where they're okay. And we offer free training. We have regularly scheduled classes. It's on a calendar here in Phoenix. And if people want to come to that training, we offer it for free. We do also on-site training. We do on-site, it's sort of like a professional services package where we do some consulting. And I was just talking to somebody, a head litigation paralegal recently about this in a pretty good sized firm. And uh, we do not say, okay, here's the software and this is how it works. So go do it this way. It's more so, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? How when you receive your data from your clients for cases that you're involved, what do you do? What is your process? Walk us through it. And then we can visualize what they're doing and say, okay, so this is how our tool fits into your workflow. But our recommendation would be to make some changes here and here to ease some of your pain. And so we really try to customize these deployments because everyone's workflow is different, and depending on their level of staffing or the hours that they work or how much data they have. I mean, if they're receiving terabytes upon terabytes of data and trying to get through that in a month, or if they're just getting 25 gigs a month, that's a big difference. So we really try to work with them to understand their workflow and then explain to them that, where we might make process improvements.
Let me ask you another question. I want to know, and this is for the trial technology consultants out here. So you're working with a lit support manager, or you're working with a firm's lit support department, or whatever. How do you integrate with, whether it be Allegro, Eclipse, whichever? How does that integrate then to kick this data out to get into a trial director or an on cue or a visionary or whatever?
Well, what I would say is, I'm not. I wouldn't say that we have a direct push to those tools, so, but we do have the ability to export for trial directors, so it's an easy import. So there are tools like that. It's just sort of the traditional export and then import. We don't have a direct integration, for example, with say trial director at this time.
Right.
To
It's just a load list that you're kicking out, right?
Yeah, so we can export, yeah, we can export the specific doc IDs that they have in there. We can export the coding data that they have if they have specific issues that they've tagged, things of that nature. We can export into some type of import file that then trial director would suck in.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, I want to talk about something that you guys are doing over at iPro that is a pretty neat thing. You're traveling around the country, and you can promote as many of these as you want to promote right now. But I understand that there is a little drinking involved in this thing. Tell me, tell me a little bit what you guys are doing. What is this deal that you guys are hosting out there?
Oh, yeah, think, drink, and be social.
Think, drink, and be social. And these things. Now, here's the deal. I mean, today is November 4th. I know there's one tomorrow that's in Seattle. Uh,
Uh-huh.
the thing that's beautiful about this is the first two drinks are free,
Hmm.
appetizers are served. There's
Hmm.
no sales pitches. These are
No.
just fun things. What? Why? I understand why you're doing them, but who chooses these locations? And when the hell are you coming to? I'm in Dallas now. When are we going? When are we doing Dallas Fort Worth? First two
Well,
drinks are on you. I'm in.
you know what? I think we have a Dallas on the plan, so I will let you know. Yeah. So think, drink, and be social. So these are iPro events, but really, it's not about sales or promotion to that extent. But there are a lot of different associations out there, and there are a lot of little industry get-togethers and things like that. But they usually come with a sponsor and sometimes a speaker, and there are a lot of things that go into it, and we just want to have fun. So we're out all the time. So we are out in the field constantly. I have, as you know, I manage the sales team here, and I think that 80% of my team is on the road right now. So I have folks out in the field all over the place. And so, yeah, so tomorrow night we have one in Seattle. We are doing some type of happy hours type sponsored event in Ohio. We've got a lot of events going on, but the idea is to invite people from the industry, like minded people, get together and network and talk about e discovery. I mean, actually have conversations about what are folks seeing and connecting different types of people from different walks of life. And it doesn't matter if we have a partner in a law firm and a technician that's running software or someone that's a trial consultant. Last event we have videographer there. I mean, they're all different sorts of people that are all facing some of the same demands that are associated with being involved in litigation support and on the legal side. And it's great. It's a great way to spend a couple hours, have fun, kick back and relax. There is no formal presentation or anything of that nature, and we sponsor it.
It's
I
just
mean,
it's just like the first two drinks are on you. I mean that I'm sold at that point. Um,
and it's not, it's not a great big party. It's just a place to, we all have, look, you mentioned it earlier. Some people here said it, but quite simply stated, e-discovery is hard. And everyone who works in this business is busy and under a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of stress, and there's just tons going on. And so to be able to get together with a group of folks that are all in this, have a lot in common, and just kick back and just be, is a great way to spend an evening.
you don't have to keep selling it. I mean, I said I was in. I mean, and anywhere that Kim Taylor shows up, I'm going to be. I promise you that. Well, I'll tell you what, Tammy, it has been a pleasure having you on. I always, I've learned so much in the time I've been doing this, and this is just my humble little podcast, and we get a lot of listens, and I appreciate it. But to have guests on and talk about what's going on in the industry, I don't know of a platform out there that is quite like this one. And so I certainly enjoy it and certainly have fun. And thank you so much for coming on. And any questions that people have, Tammy's easy to get a hold of. You can certainly contact her at iPro. She's listed right there on the iPro website. Uh, Take a look at these tools. Take a look at these things that are out there. I don't think you can ever learn too much. I'll tell you, e-discovery is something that, as I said earlier in the conversation with Tammy, I said I'm not I'm not getting into the e-discovery business. It's not something I've ever been involved in, but I have some people in my company who I am interested in maybe looking at having them come up in the e-discovery ranks and understanding those things so that that service can be provided. Because if you're not on the e-discovery bus, I think at this point in time you could be being left behind. And if you're just now coming into the e-discovery venue or arena, um, you're behind the power curve right now. And companies like iPro are there to help bring you up to speed. So I want to thank everybody for listening. I certainly thank Tammy for being on here. And
Thanks for having me. This was
hey,
really fun.
absolutely. It was a pleasure to have you on. And, we're going to do it again next week. So for my guest, Tammy Doss, I'm Rob Hilton. We'll see you again next week.